bedding in Neil Atkinson with Ian Ryan. He's done his button up, Rob Gutmann and Gareth Roberts to talk about Fernando Torres on this one. A nice little reminisce about Fernando Torres. It's Rob, I think in loads of ways now, you know, Mo Salah is better than Fernando Torres. That's not the chat here, that's not what I want. But you're not seeing anything like it from the point of view of a Liverpool signing. We'd had Owen, we'd had Fowler, we'd had incredible forwards, but I still sort of remember the first 3 months of Torres playing for Liverpool as just being, every single time I was either in the ground or watching it on the telly, just getting almost transported to, my God, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was brilliant when we signed him, even before we'd seen him kick a ball, because I remember us being linked to him, and I remember thinking there's no chance we get him. Because it wasn't like he was like unknown. It wasn't like he was like a secret that Liverpool had scouted or something. Everyone knew who Fernando Torres was, and everyone knew that he'd been ripping it up for Atletico. And you know, the story of it is like Rafa just bells him and says, "Yeah, fancy Liverpool," and he's into it and signs, and it's sort of that simple, and that's fantastic in itself. But yeah, it was very early on.
That says a lot about him as a person. I almost feel like it was almost that direct an appeal. It was almost just an emotional appeal.
His armband said that he was red.
Well,
Torres, yeah, you'll never walk alone, it said. But yeah, there was all that. So it was proper like a romantic signing, wasn't it? And we were all in love with him before he'd even kicked the ball for us. You know, he had the armband, like Rob said. He got a great song. We got to bounce. You know, he tears Chelsea apart. You know what I mean? And like everything about him, and all the stuff that happens with him as well is just boss. Like we can talk forever about how good he was, what a great finisher he was, some of the fantastic goals he scored, but he was a fucking needly little bastard.
Well, 10 in the first game.
Yeah, I loved him for that. Like I remember Redden trying to kick him up in the air, and he wasn't arsed. No, it's like, go ahead, and I'll just do this.
That Reading game, Ian, was for me the biggest announcement I've ever seen of a footballer ever. They tried to bully him, they tried to make it horrible for him, they tried to kick him off the park. I think, if I'm right in saying, he scores a hat-trick and he is downright unplayable, and it is only a League Cup match and all the obvious sort of stuff, but it's like he was just sort of going, well, this is the best you can do.
He was the yard dog, Bikey or someone like that.
Andre Bikey, yeah.
Were they Premier League?
They were a Premier League team in the period, yeah. And they think they're going to bully him. And not only did they not bully him, he bullies them. Yeah. And it was watching that reversal as it wore on.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? And I remember where it was when we signed him. I was on holiday and I remember reading about him, thinking, wow, this is a huge, significant signing. And I think, you know, there was talk about maybe, I don't think he broke 20 for Atletico Madrid at the time in terms of goals in the league. I think he was around about 16, 17 on the regular. But you looked at him and you thought, is he going to be that physical? He's 6'1", 6'2", something like that, but doesn't look like he could handle himself. But when you get to see him up close, my God, I just think people were shocked how strong he was. People just bounced off him. Yeah. His kind of physical presence was something that really struck me when you watched him play.
He had the boyish features and the blonde hair and all the obvious sort of nonsense
that lulls you into a little bit of false insecurities. Since that, he thought, oh, he looks all right, he looks nice, doesn't he? It's actually been a fuck off.
Yeah, do you know what?
And he had a little bit of that about him. And you know, Robbo talked about the Chelsea home debut. What an arrival that was. I mean, so quick, and it was a different time back then. You couldn't go and look at the internet and get all these compilations of how good they were and the goals and stuff. It was a different world, but to see him that day, you thought, my God, this could be a genuine superstar. He looks unreal. The partnership with Gerrard, which comes a little bit late in terms of what you see there, but unbelievable footballer.
Yeah, well, we buy him at she's 23, which is about the same age we buy John Barnes, which I contend is a sweet spot age to buy a lad who's looked stellar at 19-20 but has maybe plateaued. So because Torres 2 years before was Spain's golden boy and he just plateaued a bit. We get him for a big price because he's a big name, but he's not quite the name he was expected to be, so we probably get him 15 million cheaper than he should be. But he's also filling out, he's got Trent's body then. So he was a lanky streak of piss before, you know, when people got used to him. Well, I'd fancied him as a footballer for a few years before because I'd
fancied him as a fella, though.
Fancied him as a fella. I'd seen him for.
Was a good looking footballer.
Beached him for Spain though, but he had a change of pace when he was facing up his man in the channel, which I'd only seen in Thierry Henry really, and I thought that's fucking weird. You know, his body didn't look like Thierry Henry's, but he could do that. And I thought, that'd be some player to have, but he hadn't quite pushed on, and then you saw him in a World Cup or a Euros for Spain. He's not quite pushing on, but he's lively. And we got him, I was made up. I thought, but that's definitely a level above our level of signing. And then he comes in, and then he's got that power. I have to say he's not our best player, he's not as good as this or that. I think in patches, he's as good as anything we've ever had.
He went on scoring 6 that were unbelievable, and he scored so many different types of goals as well. Like I still love that Carragher, obviously taking the piss, talks about his assist against Blackburn, where he just pumps it down the line, and Torres hits the first time. It's an unbelievable goal, that.
It's like Sharpie's goal, but Everton.
I think that Marseille away. The Marseille away performance is outrageous. It's outrageous. It's just unbelievable what he does in that one. Following season 08-09, when he decides, because of the team he's got around him, I think to an extent, he is going to one-man bully Real Madrid into the ground. And he works every single player on that pitch. He might as well go down to all the Real Madrid players afterwards and go, so I was better than you there, wasn't I? I was better than each of you over and over again.
That Real Madrid one, I mean, there's a turn where if it goes in, it's just one of the greatest goals. He ends up putting it wide, doesn't he? I think he puts it just wide, but the turn on the edge of the box, fucking hell. I think the whole ground just went one way, and he went the other way. It was unreal. And you talk about the Marseille game, which is a standout. Into Milan as well, in the San Siro, where he swivels and buries it. That's an iconic moment. That's a brilliant moment when he turns and does
no one's mentioned United yet.
I mean, this United. I talked about the Arsenal game in the Champions League earlier on. There's that game as well. He's just absolutely fucking unplayable.
As a complete performance, well, it's not a complete performance, as a 45 minutes, that 45 minutes he has against Real Madrid in that second leg is, for me, although he doesn't score as many goals, on a par with the Suarez 45 against Norwich, and it's against Real fucking Madrid. He had a vendetta against Real Madrid that night. That was the boy Atletico fan, who hated.
That's boss, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
tremendous.
That wasn't someone being a boss pro. That was someone thinking, I've got Steven Gerrard there, I've got Xabi Alonso there, I've got a keeper who I like, I've got this, I've got this, I've got everyone watching me, and I am going to go and fucking destroy these because I've got all my mates and I'm better than them as well. And honestly, I think it's pure needle. It's not professionalism. It's the opposite of professionalism. It's pure needle.
But it's the most motivated I've ever seen a single individual footballer. Seriously, I've never seen someone so wound up but focused at the same time to do what he had to do.
He was one of them players as well. I'm not sure how widely known this is or whether it's been in books or whatever, but it got mentioned before about his appearance and then the reality of what he was like as a player. I think people did look at his appearance and think, soft touch. Yeah. You know what I mean?
100% he did.
Pretty boy.
Yeah.
He played for a long stretch for Liverpool with a broken collarbone. Obviously Liverpool didn't publish the fact, because you don't. Playing through that pain, just go, I'm playing. Yeah. And obviously Rafa was like, sound, play then. But he wasn't one like, dirty sock, twisted sock, and he's not playing. Yeah. Like, he had a proper bit of steel about him. It's a bit mad. I've seen him now.
So he's big cunt now, isn't he?
Massive, isn't he?
Like you, lad? Timber.
He's gone dead big.
No, he's big. No, he's big. Like, no, he's gone like fucking.
Like, it looks like he'd be on the tours.
Yeah, you wouldn't fuck with him, like.
Oh yes, his neck's got bigger, hasn't he? He's been on the roids. Juice
I'll confirm or deny, Rob.
Let's just be clear.
Watching.
You never know who's subscribing.
That was a joke.
But that was the thing though, because you looked at his body shape and you thought, as you said before, long streak of pace, he was wiry. But when you put him on the pitch, that wasn't how he played the game. You couldn't bully him, you couldn't dominate him. If you wanted to get physical with him, he'd have a bit of that. He wasn't bothered, and I don't think many people quite knew what they were getting in terms of a footballer when he arrived, and he was special. How it ends is a shame, and I don't like the Carragher stuff where he comes out and talks about him down in tools, because that's not a thing you want to hear or see from a footballer who's getting paid. But he did, exactly. And when I talk about the Carragher stuff, I'm not blaming Jamie. I'm glad he tells that story. It lies with Torres. That shouldn't be happening. That should not be happening. And it disappoints you when you hear stuff like that. And you remember that game towards the end of his career against Chelsea where he gets the 2, doesn't he? It's a cold, horrible night at Hodgson's charge. He scores the 2. One's clip, one's bottom corner. He kills it. Brilliant goal. But you felt, that night, because of who he was up against, he put a performance on. But the weeks leading up to it, my memory is he was shocking. And it was a shame. And listen, they never got the player we had. and you can be thankful for that. But our end, it did leave a bit of a sour taste.
Sam when Aga took him out, wasn't
I think on our
Yeah.
end, to come back, I want to sort of come back to it. I think he gives everything. Gareth, you mentioned the collarbone thing. 08-09 running, I think he gives everything. Like, he could not. Gerrard's gone off injured. We earlier in the season we beat United without Gerrard or Torres, but I think Gerrard goes out injured in that run in 08-09, and Torres basically tries to drag Liverpool towards the league title in a way that I think is, is testament to him and to what he was about as a person. There's the 4-1 at United. He's repeatedly absolutely
The 4-4
brilliant.
with Arsenal's actually his last swan
He's
song.
incredible in the 4-4 with Arsenal. But we win every game after that point as well, and he scores some goals. But I agree with you, he's incredible in the 4-4 with Arsenal. What a night that was in loads of different ways. But he's there to give everything, Robbo, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he did give everything. And I think, look, Ian says about the end of it, and the end of it was grim. And look, I've just said myself that I enjoyed it when Aga smashed them. But equally, I enjoyed it that, a few years on, we got a round of applause at Anfield in that game. And, I think, you obviously can never speak for every Red and all that kind of thing. But I think most Reds now think of him in an affectionate way.
What I think sort of does for him, it's partially the injuries, and that's partially because we're running them into the ground because of Hicks and Gillette. There's no alternative. There's the Gerrard face when Benitez hooks him in a game at 1-1, but I reckon he's just done, and he knows Torres is in all sorts of trouble at that point. But what I think that doesn't help him, but I actually think does him in. I think he just loses his fire. Like, we talk about his fire, we just talked about that with Madrid there, like he was fiery as a footballer. I think that fire just goes out, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. I like, if anything, I mean it respectfully. I think we sort of take it off him a little bit,
He's broken,
and I think it's weird. I think we sell him broken, not just physically broken, I don't think, but also mentally.
No, there was so much madness going on behind the scenes. There's those stories about, the players that they promised they were going to buy, the direction that the club was going to go in, and then there was no evidence of that whatsoever. And it was clear as well that, relationships sort of off the pitch were a bit strained. You mentioned Carragher. I remember him and them two going at each other at Goodison away. Obviously away. Goodison, Everton away. They're having a go at each other. Jamie presumably saying he's not making a run. Torres saying, fucking hell, I'm up here on my own. Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't a nice time to play for Liverpool, was it, in the end? Let's be honest, it was a shit time to support Liverpool.
That's the 2-0 to Hodgson, isn't it?
Yeah. Shit time to support Liverpool, and you would imagine not the greatest time to play for them either. So I think with hindsight, it's grim that he goes to Chelsea and all that kind of stuff. It's grim how his career goes after that as well. There's that miss, isn't there, at Old Trafford and things like that, and you're just a bit like, lad.
That 2-0 Goodison's always, the thing that's always amazed about that was we watched it in town and a few went, Amelia had gone. Amelia came back and he walked in, he had a smile on his face, and I said, what are you smiling about? And he said, well, at least he's got to go. With reference to Hodgie.
Utopia.
There's that the Newcastle goal as well, the one when he steps over it. I absolutely fucking love that goal. It's got a little bit of Pele about it, but unlike Pele, Torres obviously finds the net where he just steps over it and then goes round, and it's just the types of goals he could score is what I loved. There wasn't like a certain goal where you thought that's a Torres goal. He could pretty much do everything. He scored it from inside the box. The Inter Milan one I mentioned before, where it's outside the box, and that Newcastle one where it's just brilliant in the mind, in the head. It's just everywhere.
He's the best technical finisher we've ever had.
He was the complete package, I felt, and you see it on the international stage as well, where he gets the goal in 08, which is the winning goal, I think, against Germany. You think maybe even scored in 2012 in the final as well. He maybe comes on, gets a World Cup winners medal. I mean, he'll look back at his medals and think, fuck me, I've had a hell of a career there. It's just a shame that some of those medals, obviously, there's the Champions League thing with Chelsea, isn't it? I think he scores against Barcelona in the Nou Camp. But it's a shame that none of those
really,
came with us.
There's a sad piece about him as well. It was just always like the story of where it went after Liverpool always made me dead sad. I remember Rory, I think it was, either wrote a piece or tweeted or mentioned on a pod, one of the three, content. He said that he's seen the Chelsea team, like getting the bags after a flight or something like that. And he said it was basically the Chelsea team, Torres, on his Todd. And it was like, you signed up to this weird, lonely existence at a shit club where you were with us and we loved you, and you had your bromance with Gerrard, you were a hero for us, we had that song, there was that brilliant advert, there's Spanish flags all over the city when, they were in the Euros and all that. To go from that adulation and being an absolute like star for a club to just be an AN other at Chelsea was horrible.
Well, they all say that though, don't they? They all say that. If you look at it, or even those that leave Liverpool and go on to great success, apart from maybe Steve McManaman, I think is a bit more. Yeah. He's a bit more. He's a bit more. Yeah, but even those that don't know, I even wonder when we look back on it, Raheem Sterling, when he'll have looked with what Liverpool have done while he's been at City. He'll have won more trophies at City's, but I tell you what, he wouldn't have half fancied winning that league with us or that European Cup with us. I don't know. And there's
never
a few.
Never liked Brendan him, does he? And vice versa.
I think Owen would have never have left. I think you could write a big list of. I can conjure up and say Suarez. Yeah, I liked all those trophies with Barcelona. But there's a fair few of them. We've got it happened in the 80s as well. Those who moved on too early. Shouldn't have left Liverpool.
Also, Rob, as well.
They missed the Cop.
He's not the main man at Chelsea when he goes there, is he? You know, in terms of those trophies, he's not the main man.
It's the fire and the character. It's the idea.
Didier Drogba's the main man, and Torres is playing bit pass. And don't get me wrong, his name's on those team sheets in terms of he's a sub for the Champions League final. He gets the goal against Barcelona. He does play a pivotal role in Spain's success. You have to say that. But I do understand what you're saying. I think one or two of those victories are probably slightly hollow because I think he had an affinity with Liverpool Football Club. He got the fans got him, and that's why it did hurt people, because it felt like he was one of our own. It did feel like that thing where he'd embraced the kind of city and the club and
the needle.
And the needle as well, so it did feel like he kind of belonged and stuff. And you can't underplay the song, can you? The song's a thing where everyone got behind the song. I mean, there's been very few songs, I think, that compare to that Torres one. I absolutely loved it. The crowd was bouncing. It did feel slightly different.
There's no complaints about the fucking thing either, was there? Every song we've got now in the fucking songbook, whether it's old or new, someone's got a complaint about it. Too fast, too slow, shit, blah, blah. With that one, everyone, old asses, new asses, whatever you wanted, all got behind it, and everyone enjoyed bouncing. Yeah. And it was like, hang on, remember that when we all enjoyed things? That was sound, wasn't it?
What Torres came to realise, to quote Lennon, is a working class hero is something to be. And I know you can reinterpret what Lennon meant and all that, but it sticks in my mind. Being a Liverpool hero is a bigger deal. It just is, for a variety of reasons.
It is indeed. See you later.